In this video we're gonna make this shuriken. It will just move around between 2 points. Okay, I'm gonna leave off this sprite in the description. You can go check this out. So as you can see, there are multiple sprites of shuriken. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna cut off individually. So we need to select and go to inspector. We're gonna select single to multiple, because there are multiple sprite. We're gonna select pixel per unit to 16, something like that, to make it larger. And we're gonna select by filter mode to bilinear to point no filter, because as you can see, this is an pixel art. Okay, so we're gonna select point no filter. After doing all of this, hit apply, and we need to cut off individually in the left in top right corner, left, as you can see, automatic. So what hit this slice over here, as you can see, automatic. So what we're gonna do, select automatic to grid by cell count, and count how many columns and rows it has a one row and 8 columns, as you can see. So we're gonna pass 8 columns, okay, and one row. After doing that, hit slice over here, hit slice. After doing that, and hit apply. Okay, hit apply. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna select the game view once again. Okay, I'm gonna select the first sprite, and we're gonna drag it into the scene view. Okay, say scene view. As you can see, we are not able to see the shuriken. Basically, shuriken layer or the background layer is front of shuriken layer. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a sorting layer of for shuriken, and we're gonna move it in front of background. Okay, so select the shuriken over here, go to sprite and renderer, and select sorting layer, additional setting over here, select default to add sorting layer. Okay, and hit this plus over here, and name that shuriken something like that, and hit enter to save it, and hit again to that game object shuriken, and we're gonna select sorting layer to shuriken. Now the shuriken is in front of our background sorting layer. So we're gonna move it over here. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna create the animation first. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I'm gonna move the animation tab over here, and we need to drag all of the sprite. Okay, if I select the sprite shuriken, so you will be so yeah, as you can see, I already have created. So what you need, create that, or create, you will able to see and create, and name that something like shuriken. Okay, and hit this record button to record the animation, and select all of the sprite. Okay, I'm gonna delete from here, something like that. I'm gonna drag all of the frames over here, select holding down shift. Okay, and drag it into animation tab, and hit play. As you can see, it's playing. Okay, so hit this record button once again to record, capture the animation. I'm gonna move the animation tab over here. Now we have this animation. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna firstly rename. Okay, firstly we're gonna rename. I'm gonna delete this one. So we're gonna firstly rename this. Okay, rename this shuriken. So go to inspector and name. Okay, and add two game object. Firstly the rigid body one. Okay, hit the add component over there, and we're gonna select dynamic to kinematic, so it will not fall down due to gravity. Okay, and we're gonna select collision detection to continuous. After doing that, add an circle collider 2D. Okay, and adjust the radius. And what we need to create the shuriken script. So go to assets, right click, create C# script, name that script to something like shuriken, and select the shuriken game object, and drag that script to add component section of shuriken. I already have created over here, as you can see. So double click that to open up in Visual Studio. So what are we gonna do, we're gonna make 2 points. Between these 2 points, the shuriken will move. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna create an empty game object. So go to hierarchy, right click, create an empty game object, name that something like points. Okay, and hit enter, and go to transform of that component, right click and reset the transform, and select an icon. I'm gonna select the green one. Okay, green one, and right click on point. Okay, right click on point and create an empty child game object, and select an icon. Okay, select an icon. I'm gonna move it over here. I'm gonna select this one. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna duplicate this one. Okay, so control D to duplicate. okay, and I'm gonna move it over here something like this. Okay, I'm gonna move the this one upper one little further. So this between these 2 point, the shuriken will move. Okay, between this position, two position, the shuriken will move. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna create an array, and we're gonna put these 2 points into that array. Okay, basically as you know, we have multiple point more than one, so that's why we need to make an array. We're gonna that will be transform array. Transform basically means, as you know, points, basically position. So I'm gonna drag the points over here in the top hierarchy so we can see it. And if I so double click that script, okay, shuriken script, we're gonna go over to script, and we're gonna define an array, and we're gonna make it public to see inspector. Okay, public, and that will be transform. As you know, transform basically means position, and you have to make this square brackets, and we're gonna call it something like points. Okay, points, and control s on your keyboard to save this, and head again to unity. Okay, so what we need, we will able to see and points array will appear, that will say something like list is empty. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna drag this 2 point into that array. Okay, so we will have the bit these 2 points. Okay, so just wait for to compile, and just wait for to compile, and you will able to see, as you can see, list is empty. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna drag these 2 points. So I'm gonna select the first one and drag it into the point array, and we need to also select the second point, and we're gonna drag it over here. As you can see, 0 is the first one, basically 0, first one index is 0, and the second one point index is 1. As you can see, element 0 and 1. So 0 is the first one. Okay, first one is the 0, and 1 is the second one. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna use this function. Okay, so firstly what we're gonna do over here, we're gonna also gonna make speed. Okay, how much fast should we go between those 2 points. Okay, we're gonna make it public. Okay, and that type will be float, and we're gonna call it something like speed. By default you can set anything like that. I'm gonna select 2 units, something like that. You can adjust in the inspector, so that's why we made it public. Okay, so we're gonna go to update function. As you know, update function get call every single frame, so we're gonna do it over here. So we're gonna say transform dot position. Okay, transform dot position over here means the current position of shuriken, and we're gonna set equal to, we're gonna use this function. Okay, vector2 dot move towards. Okay, so this function over here will take two position, sorry, this function over here will take three arguments. The first one, it will take the current position. Okay, and the second parameter, it will take the target position, basically means in which position you want to go. And the third argument, it will take the speed, how much fast should we go. Okay, so we're gonna specify the first one. As you know, it will take the current position, basically means transform dot position over here means the current position, and we're gonna pass the target position. So points we have to pass, as you know, and you have to make square brackets. As you know, the first point is the 0. So if we put over here 0, so the shuriken will move to the first point. Okay, and if we create if we put it over here 1, so it will move to the second point. As you know, the second point index is 1, so it will move over to second point. What we're gonna do, we're gonna create an integer value, and we're gonna name it something like index. Okay, point index, something like that we're gonna call it, and we're gonna make it public to see in inspector. Okay, so we're gonna define over here, we're gonna create public, and that type will be integer, so basically means 1 2 3 4, and we're gonna call it something like index. Okay, by default you can set it to 0, something like that. But if you haven't assigned something like that, if we close that off with semicolon, so by default it will be set it to 0, because we haven't assigned it something like that. You can set it by default equal to something like 0 over 1. If you select it or something like 1, if you do, so it will go over to second point. But if we haven't assigned something like that, it will be set by default 0. So we're gonna pass the index over here. Okay, index over here, sorry, index over here, and we're gonna say dot, we have to type position. As you know, that is position, and the third argument, it will take the speed. By default we set it to a unit, but we can adjust in the inspector as, so that's why we made it public. So we're gonna pass the speed, and we also need to multiply this speed with time dot delta time to make frame rate independent. Okay, time dot delta time, and close that off with semicolon. Okay, so this function over here, vector2 dot move towards, will take the current position as a first argument. Transform dot position over here means the suriken current position, and we are passing the so as you can see, index by default it will be set it to 0 because we haven't assigned it something like that. So it will move over to the first point, point 0 0, as you know, 0 is the first point, 1 is the second point, so it will move over to the first point, okay, in this start. And and the third argument, it will take the speed, how much fast should you go. By default we set it to 2 unit. Okay, so transform dot position over here means the current position, and we are setting equal to this, okay, as you can see. So control s on your keyboard to save this and head again to unity. Okay, and if we select the suriken, you will able to see suriken will move over to the first point, because as you know we have pass points index, and by default index will be 0, okay, because we haven't assigned it something like that, but you can set it to something like 1, okay, equal to 1, something like that, so it will move over to the second point. So if we select the suriken over here, as you can see index by default it's 0, and the speed parameter over here we can see. So the 0 is the first one, as you know, 1 is the second point. So if I now hit play, index is 0, so it will move over to the first point. Okay, so it will move over to the first point. So just wait for to compile and you will able to see. As you can see it's moving over to the first point. If I drag it over here, as you can see, wherever I put it will move over to the first point. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna check, okay, if the suriken position, okay, so if the suriken position and this first point position or this point position, if it's some kind of lesser than some distance, what we're gonna do, we're gonna increase the index. Okay, if we set this index to 1, as you know 1 is the second point, so the suriken over here will move over to the second point. So second point index, as we know, this is 1. So if I now hit play, and if I set this index to 0, sorry, index to 1, it will move over to the second point. As you know, second point index was index is 1. So just wait for to compile, and if we set it to 1, so it will go over to the second point. If I now set it index to 0 1, as you can see it's over here, it's going to next point. So if we are over here, okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna set back index to 0. So as you know 0 is the first point, so it will just move over to the first point if we set it to 0. And if we are over here some kind of distance, so we can end the point, we're gonna set we're gonna increase the index by 1. So it, as you know, it will go over to the second point. So we're gonna so it gonna loop over between these 2 points. It will just move around between these 2 points. Okay, so what are we gonna do, we're gonna go to script. Okay, we're gonna go to script, and we're gonna check between we're gonna check, we have to use this if, and we're gonna use this vector2 dot distance. Okay, vector2 dot distance, basically this function will take two position and it will compare some kind of distance, something like that. If it's that, so we're gonna increase that. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna pass that transform dot position. Okay, as you know transform dot position over here means the current position or the center position of suriken, and we're gonna pass points, okay, points index, we're gonna pass the index dot position. Okay, dot position, as you know, points as index by default it will be 0. So it will check our current position of suriken, the center position of suriken, and the first point position. If it's some kind of lesser than, so we're gonna do it over here something like lesser than zero point 0.1, some kind of distance, and make this curly bracket. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna increase the index because we are changing the first point position and the suriken point position. If it's lesser than zero point 0.1, some kind of distance, what we're gonna do, we're gonna increase the index. Okay, index plus plus or index plus equal 1, something like that, it also means the same case. So control s on keyboard to save this and head again to unity. Okay, so whenever we in the whenever we move to the first point, so it will check our suriken position and the first point position. If it's lesser than zero point 0.1, something like that, so we are increasing the index by 1. So as you know, if the index is 1, it will go over to the next point. Okay, the next point index is 1, as you know. So if I hit play, okay, if I move the suriken over here and if I hit play, it will move over to the first point. Okay, as you know by default index it will be set it to 0. so it will move over to the first point. As we know, first point position is 0, index is 0. Okay, so as you can see, it's moving over to the next point. Okay, we, because we are setting index to 1, but as you can see, index becomes 2. So what we're gonna do, if it's 2 or something like that, we're gonna set the index to 0. So as you know, if it's 0, it will move over to the first point, and it will also check the first point position and the suriken point position. If it's lesser than point 0.1, something like that we did in the script, so it will move, we increasing the index by 1, so it will move over to the second point. So it will just keep looping in between these two position. So if we over here the second point, what we're gonna do, we're gonna set this index to 0. If it's the index is to some okay, so we're gonna set the index to 0. So as you know, it will move over to the first point, and it will also move over to the second point, because we are checking the first point position and the second point position. If it's lesser than point 0.1, so we are increasing the index by 1, so it will move to the second point. And if we over here, we're gonna set back index to 0. Okay, so it will move over to the first point. So it will just keep looping between these 2 points. So just wait for the compile, and we're gonna go over to over here, and we're gonna check. Okay, we're gonna check if index, okay, if index is equals to points. Okay, points dot length. Okay, points dot length, and make this curly brackets over here. As you know, sorry, I just spell it over here. So as you know, point dot length over here means how many points we have. Okay, so as you know, we have 2 points, so points dot length over here will be 2. Okay, so index, if it's 2 or if it's equals to 2, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna set index to 0. So as you know, so it will the move to the first point. Okay, it will move over to the first point. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna set index, we're gonna set it to 0. So okay, so as you know, when index becomes 2, it's just a stack in the second point. So what we are doing, if its index is 2, or points dot length over here means how many points we have. As you know, we have 2 points. So if the index already is 2 equals to 2, so what we're doing, we're setting back index to 0. So as you know, this function will take the first position and the target position where you want to go. So index over here becomes once again 0, so it will move over to the first point. And over here we checking if the first point position and the current point position of suriken, if it's lesser than point 0.1, so what we doing, we increasing the index by 1. So as you know, if we set it to 1 index, so it will move over to the second point. But when we are second point, when the index is 2, something like that, equals to points dot length. As you know, points dot length over here means how many points we have. We setting back index to 0, so it will move over to the first point. Okay, so control s on your keyboard to save this, and head again to unity. So it will just keep looping between these 2 points. You can create many points as you want. Okay, as you want. So it will move over to between those 2 points, the shuriken. Okay, so control s on your keyboard to save this, and you can adjust the speed in the inspector over here. As you can see, speed parameter, you can set it. So if I now hit play, okay, if I now hit play, the shuriken will just move between these 2 points. Okay, the shuriken will move between these 2 points. So just wait for to compile, and you will able to see that. Okay, as you can see, it's going first point and then second point. We're setting over here can you can see we are setting the index 0 and 1, 0 and 1. 0 is the first one, 1 is the second one. So whenever the index becomes 2, something like that, we're setting index to 0. So as you can see, whenever we're setting index to 0 and we're checking the distance between shuriken and the first point, we say increasing the index by 1, so it will move over to the next point. So it will just keep looping over here. As you can see, index becoming 1 and 0 only. So I hope you get the idea. Okay, if you did, if you enjoyed this video, then like this and share it with your friends. Okay, and if you are new to my channel, then subscribe it for future or upcoming tutorials. And if you want to support me, you can support me on patreon.com. Okay, and lastly, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Okay, goodbye.